What's up, Sterile Processing Universe? It's Hank Balch here, and we're going to be talking about what sterile processing is making in 2023. If you remember, we did a similar video back in 2022 talking about what's the pay rate, what's the compensation out there in our space. Well, this week, actually today, that the new HPN salary survey came out. This is the largest salary survey in our industry. It's got the most data points, and I haven't read it yet. So I thought it'd be fun to read it together, to do some quick reacts. I've got some strong opinions around compensation in our space and how to improve it. And how not to improve it sometimes, or how maybe some things that we're doing are not improving it. Maybe that's a better way to say it. So, yeah, what is sterile processing? What are we making as technicians, as leaders in the space? Does it vary by where we live, by our education background? Something tells me we're going to get some of those data points in today's article. So, without further ado, let's jump into this. And as a reminder, again, we're going to be reading this together and I'm going to be reacting together. But you can find the original article on the hpnonline.com and then just search around for the sterile processing, and you should be able to track down the name of the survey this year, or at least the write-up is the ups and downs of SPD from 2022 and 2023. So let's take a look. All right. The average salary of sterile processing is up 3% at $69,000 a year compared with $67,000 in 2022. What's surprising is a 14% drop in the survey's respondents reporting a yearly pay increase. Those reporting the receipt of bonuses in 2023 held steady. So let's just kind of stop there and look at the numbers. And I have not spoken to the author of this salary survey. So, there's some questions here, and I'm going to be I'm going to be making some assumptions. Let me just put it that way. But what we're told in the first paragraph is uh, the numbers of respondents said that we're up to 69,000 a year, which, by the way, I'd be really curious to know how many people watching this video are making 69,000 a year as a sterile processing professional. I mean, I wasn't making 69,000 a year as a sterile processing manager. So something tells me how that was way back in 2013. But something tells me that we either got a lot of leaders responding to this and not a lot of technicians, or there's something else at play. But then, yeah, that second sentence, a 14% drop in respondents that said they got an increase in pay. So already from the very onset, the data, I'm kind of reading between the lines here, but what we're hearing is the data's not lining up. Let's read on, because we could get some answers to some of these questions. All right. So let's take a look here at the number breakdown of these annual base salaries. As we said, almost $70,000 is the average annual base. The question over here on the side, increase since last year. Yeah, 56% say yeah, 36 say no, or say that it stayed the same, and 8% said it decreased. That's really sad. All right, so the breakdown here, the average pay by gender, we see 69% of respondents, I guess, is what that number is. They're averaging 66,000, and then 29% of the guys are averaging 79,000. I think that's the percentage breakdown of the respondents. Expecting a bonus this year, 52% say no, 24% say yes, and 24% say I don't know. This is interesting. Going back, I reference 2013 was actually when I started as a sterile processing manager, and that's when I first got my manager job. And the average base was 53,000. So that's that's much more in line with what my experience was out there. But I'd be curious again to know where you sit on this spectrum of compared to the average base. All right, fluctuations in salary by title, and then it says males still in the lead in pay. While there were no dramatic shifts in salary by role, there were some slight ups and downs, likely because of changing demographics of respondents from year to year. So, I'm not a data scientist. I have not done a lot of surveys in my space, but that sentence is a very important sentence. If the demographics of your survey respondents are changing from year to year, what that means is comparing data from year to year is actually not that helpful. That may not mean a lot to you if you're just kind of curious. Like you just want to know, hey, what do we make in 2023? That data point, that point of information may not be that controversial for you, but it's important for anybody who cares about the trending of the data, because if you're asking 100 different people every year the same questions, you're not actually tracking uh, a similar group of people, at least demographically, from year to year, then the data is going to be jumping all over the place, which is kind of what it sounds like we're seeing from this survey. The total number of professionals who took this survey, 378 compared to 177 in 2022. So they got a much larger respondent base. That's good. That's positive that we're getting more people um, who are submitting this information. It looks like the titles of this year who participated, there are 8% fewer lead techs and there were 5% fewer technicians and coordinators compared with last year. So what I'm guessing is that means less folks on the front lines were reporting, which means our average is being lifted now by more managers and directors that are reporting their salary, which would explain why the numbers aren't quite lining up to our reality in the space. When looking at the pay reported by title, the survey showed an average increase for supervisors up to 61,000. For surgical instrument technicians, 57,000 up from 57,000. Let me do the math here just real quick. Give me a second. Because I'm really curious about this. 57,000. That's about $27 an hour is the average. I'd be curious if you're making around that 27, more or less. Drop it in the comment section. And if you would, if you're going to tell us kind of like around your salary ranges, let us know where you're from too, because that has a lot. It comes into play. All right, sterile processing managers, 88 up from 86,000. So 88,000, pretty good gig to be a sterile processing manager these days. Instrument technician coordinators. Okay, so this is weird. Like, why is there a difference in a surgical instrument tech and an SBD tech? That that makes no that doesn't make a lot of sense to me while we're breaking those job titles up and then reporting two different numbers. I understand the coordinators are different, but instrument techs and SBD techs should be in the same category, in my opinion. Sterile processing directors, 140 on average. I'd really like to see if anyone from HPN is watching this. I would like to know how many from each of these categories we have reporting. So if you got two directors that are reporting their salary, that's not really a substantial enough respondent group to be with any uh, with any good faith, I think, reporting some of these numbers. Obviously, I'm assuming that we have more directors than that and managers than that, but still 140,000 on average as an SPD director salary, that still seems quite high. I know there's directors out there that are still not even making six figures, And if they are, they're just barely over into that kind of 100,000 mark. But I'm speaking from data that I haven't seen either. So I am more than willing to be corrected wrong if you can show me the data behind it. All right. Decreases of educators were down to 64 versus 65 last year. And we see some information here about the various other roles that went down. We got the male versus female commentary there on the different wages. And then you're getting some quotes. Okay, so we know this name around here at Beyond Clean, Sean Weir. I feel like our profession is severely underpaid for the knowledge, material, and extensive memory retention we are needed for our daily and weekly duties. Amen to that, Sean. We do not get paid enough. And, Sean's in that category of educators that looks like that there's a decrease in your annual salary. Not Sean in particular, you're right, but he's out of that category of these job roles that, uh, as an industry, at least this year, the data is saying that we're starting to devalue these educators, which is really, really a shame. All right, so we've got a quote here from Lewayne Perkins. If you Google sterile processing jobs in the U.S., you get over 2 million open positions in some form related to sterile processing. Clearly, the need for these professionals is more significant than ever. So yeah, definitely need out there in a space for more SPD, and that's why this compensation question is so important. What are we getting paid? What is real potential to get paid? And let me just kind of pause here for a second because we got a lot of training programs out there in the space, uh, either online curriculums or in-person training schools. And what do the students always ask before they even start the program? What does this industry pay? What can I look to be making? Well, we, we can tell them kind of starting rates in our area, but then we kind of got to look out here to the data that's out there and say, yeah, but what's the growth potential? And how many people end up becoming managers? How many people end up becoming directors? Like, where is that growth pattern for brand new technicians coming into the space? And so we look around here at the data, and honestly, I just don't think, I'm not convinced yet, at least by this year's survey, that we're really getting any kind of real trustworthy tangible data. Like, this is more than what we have, because outside of these surveys, I don't think anyone else is doing any financial surveys of our space, but still not enough, not controlled enough on the variables, not consistent enough on the demographics from year to year to really make the case that if I was coming to the industry, that I would trust the numbers, quite honestly. Um, anyway, so Alessandra Nicholson, we got a quote in here. I have found many sterile processing techs need training around negotiation, especially when they're new hires, and they often don't understand that there's a pay scale and the opportunity to ask for higher pay. Yeah, so the question around that obviously is, hey, how, if you're asking for higher pay, where do you start? Where's that kind of starting point, and how do you make yourself more competitive versus all the other technicians that may be sitting in that interview? Or maybe there's not. We do have a staffing shortage these days, so maybe that argument's a little easier to make in 2023 than maybe it was in 2016. All right, we got a quote here from Damian Berg, the VP of Strategic Initiatives at HSPA. Over the years, we've seen so many challenges. Staffing, pay recognition have always been high on the list of concerns voiced by our professionals. However, we continue to fight, lead, and work with our leadership to make these challenges better and not just talking points. Yeah, amen to that. In particular with HSPA, I would love to see, as a member of HSPA, um, going beyond those talking points, right? What does it actually look like, and what is the impact that our organization, HSPA, is actually making in this compensation debate? I'd love to see the data on that as well. So yeah, great insight there. All right, so these are some of the fun numbers. I wonder if I can make this screen any bigger for you guys. Let's see. All right. All right, so here is a lot of data. This is one of the more interesting graphs and charts that you'll see in these kind of articles. This is the breakdown by titles. We've looked a little bit at this, previously. They're kind of lining out the various averages there in in the different codes. But what I want to look at here is kind of on the right side, where you see the breakdown as far as education and the impact of various degrees on compensation that's reported. So between a high school and associate's degree, you're seeing about a $2,000 swing as a female. But now let's look at that same data here in the category of males. So we are seeing a nearly 42,000, if I got my math right, $42,000 swing between having a high school diploma and having an associate's degree as a sterile processing technician. Y'all, you know, if you have not already been troubled by this data yet, that data point by itself, like it should have an asterisk and it should be explained what the hell's going on with that. Uh, and maybe it is because there's some information down here that we haven't gotten to yet, but there is no freaking way. There's no freaking way that just getting an associate's degree in the industry is going to swing you $42,000 a year on average if you're a guy in sterile processing versus just having a high school diploma. I mean, it's crazy, absolutely crazy. Um, I'm not even going to go into the rest of that data because that's enough for me to say if that's the kind of data that has been surfaced out of those reports, then I don't I'm not buying it. Sorry, guys. Just my opinion. Okay. The impact of education and location. All right. Da 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 da. All right. Now this paragraph really interesting, and it goes exactly to what we were just saying. But sterile processing professionals who earned a bachelor's degree, which was 13% of the people who responded, reported an average annual salary of 76,000, which is down from 81,000 last year. All right. So what this data point is telling you is that from last year to this year, from 2022 to 2023, it is $5,000 less valuable for you to have a college degree as a sterile processing professional. You're going to be making less money this year with a college degree than you were last year. Someone explain that to me. Uh, so, if you've heard me talk before, I'm not a fan of requiring college degrees to manage a sterile processing department for sure, and definitely not to work in one. But this is great. I'm gonna start using this data point and say, yeah, you know, not only do I not believe in it, you're gonna make less money if you get a college degree, according to the latest survey that we have. All right. Um, Among respondents with associate's degree, 26% of respondents to this year's survey, the average salary was 59, down $7,000 from last year. So what that means, man, if you think getting a college degree is worse, try getting an associate degree. That's going to drive your average salary down $7,000 according to this data. Y'all, what am I missing? Can someone please, who knows more about data and surveys, please come into the comment section and and educate the rest of us? Because what I'm seeing is not it's not a pretty picture. It's not a consistent picture, and either I'm reading it wrong, and all this data is telling completely different story than what it just appears on the surface, or I'm reading it right, and you should not be getting a college degree. You should not be getting an associate's degree unless you're a guy. And then if you get an associate's degree, you're going to be paid $42,000 more on average versus just having a high school diploma. This stuff's everywhere. Okay, stay focused. Geographic played a role in compensation yet again this year. Sterile processing professionals had in the Pacific states had an average salary of 91 versus 86, so about a 5,000 swing. Let's see, did anyone go down? Nope, everyone went up. Okay, that's good. If you work in urban areas, your average pay is up around 2,000. In the suburbs, you're up around 4,000, and out in the sticks, you're up about 5,000. So not bad. Everyone's getting paid more according to this survey. That's the breakdown. I always like looking at this map around who's making what. It looks like 30. That's interesting. So the biggest disparities in terms of gender pay is out here on the West Coast in the New England area. You see about a $25,000 difference on the West Coast, and you see about a $31,000 difference in the Northeast. So I don't know what it is with you guys on the coast. You can't get your pay together. Okay. SPD is feeling secure, but staffing shortages are behind it. Yeah, that's an old cliche. Hey, job security, right? If there's not a lot of people coming in, then we know if we're hanging around, we're not going anywhere. All right, 94% say they feel very secure in their jobs, compared with 82 or 85% in 2022. Let's see. Hey, Janine, what's up? Got a quote from Janine, also on our Beyond Clean Advisor group. Good to see you in this article. I think it's fair to say that most areas in healthcare are struggling for workers, and sterile processing is no different. Amen to that. I got a quote here from Monique Jelks, I guess the new incoming HSPA president, if I get that right. The excessive amount of work needed to keep up with surgical volume is a major challenge that sterile processing departments face. Absolutely agree with that. Aging workforce. Okay, over half of the survey respondents were 51 years or older, and among those, 18% were between 61 and 70. Nearly half are in the 31 to 50 range, while only 1.5 were between the ages of 21 and 30. Now, that's a very interesting stat that probably mirrors a lot of what we're seeing across the rest of healthcare. Like, we know that the workforce is aging in general, but very interesting to see that kind of data. All right, quote here from Kim Hughes. There are quite a few of the staff that are at retirement age, and when they retire, we lose that experience. Currently, when we do hire, we must understand that a lot of the ones hired will stay approximately a year and then move on. We see that all across the industry here, Kim. So, great point. All right, got some commentary about travelers. We'll skip over that just in the essence of time. Okay. Salary by time in SPD. So let's take a look at these numbers here if we see any surprises. Okay. All right. That's normal numbers for time in SPD. It's gradually going up, which is what you want to see it do. The salary by time in facility. Let's take a look at this one here. Yeah, see, these are the ones, that data point, if I was doing this survey and I was looking at these data points, I would definitely explain what's going on here, because look, what this is telling us is the time to make the most money in a facility is 2 to 4 years. So, if we were taking this data at face value, what this would tell you as a sterile processing professional is do not stay more than 4 years. You stay more than 4 years in a facility, you start going down pretty rapidly, right? You go down from 76 to 75 to 64 to 68. You see a little bump around that 15 to 19-year mark. And then 20 years in the facility, you are down to $54,000 from a 76,000. So that's a $22,000 swing just by staying another 18 years in one place. So 2 to 4 years is the key, and then move on, and then say 2 to 4 years at another facility. That's what this data is telling us. Now, is that a good practice? I don't think so. I don't think that's a good. Uh, that's not a good policy for hospitals either. To lose folks after that 2 to 4 years. But it's just like there's something in this data that's not being uh, really dug into or figured out, right? Like there's something missing here because these numbers just do not line up with reality. All right. Okay, certification levels hold steady with higher pay reported. When asked if they were certified, 92% of respondents said yes, which is on par last year with 91. Respondents who were already certified reported the highest average pay of 69, followed by those in the process of certification at 60. Okay, so hopefully there's some data points down here. Is there? Nope, I don't see the graph. Okay, let me just try to go through some of these here. Okay, respondents certified by HSPA dropped to 67% from 72%, which could be leveling off from a jump of 7% in 2021 to 2022. Those certified by CBSPD also fell at 25%, down from 22%. Well, where is just less people certified then? I don't understand those numbers. Oh, okay. So we got some certifications from Amy up at 23% from 21%. So that's where some of the jump in certifications. And then we got more certification from AST. Gotcha. Okay. That's where that is. All right. Shifts reported in specific certifications varied from last year. So we got our CHL 32% up from 31. We got the CSPDT 20% up to 23%. That there's something wrong with that data. 20% in 2023 up to 23% in 2023. So that's a typo somewhere. 19% up from 17 for your CFER. Gotcha. Okay. Let's keep rolling down here. Sterile processing professionals reporting 10 or more continuing education courses dropped each year, dropped from last year at 80% down from 88% in 2022. Okay. This year down 8%. Gotcha. As did those who indicated they participated in 20 or more courses, so 39% down from 44%. Okay. See if there's any more good data in here. Got some of those. A lot of good conversation here. Okay, but that's all the data. Wow. Okay. So, what's the wrap up here? I know, like I said, I did one of these last year, and last year I didn't read the whole article either. I kind of skimmed it and then did a quick video. But this year, you were reading the article along with me, and I do not want to knock the team that put this article together. Definitely don't want to knock the contributors who had great insight and quotes in the survey. And I don't want to knock any of you 370 something that submitted your information for the survey. However, I I got to, and you deserve to know that the way that this data was gathered and presented and communicated, there are massive gaps in the data. And the interpretation of the data needs to account for that. There should be asterisks over almost every single little data point in here to communicate why it may not say what you think it says, or why it's not actually as convincing as you may think that it is. At the end of the day, I didn't learn anything in this report that is not already kind of common knowledge out there in the space. And the numbers, nothing in here would be strong enough for you to bring to your CFO, for instance, to make a case. If they're actually going to look at and compare these stats even year to year because of the shifting demographics of the survey, like at least they told us that, which I really appreciate. But in all these other data points where there's just wild swings and there's ups and downs and like nothing in the data is making sense, which I understand now why they titled this the ups and downs of SPD, because the data is just all over the place. So I know this turned out to be a long video. This is what I want you to know. If you made it to the end of this video as a sterile processing professional, maybe you're um, a technician looking to grow, maybe you're a manager saying, yeah, like, am I getting what I should be getting as a manager or director? Maybe you're thinking about getting into the space and you're like, yeah, I want to watch this video about what are folks getting paid in 2023. This is the takeaway. We don't know. As an industry, we really don't have a good grasp on the financial space out there. We don't have good comparisons for what other people are getting paid versus the size of their facility and the complexity of their facility. We don't even know like what credentials and degrees in education, what impact they have. Like you saw it, it's all over the place. It's going up and down, and like we got small sample sizes that we're asking. There's very little hard data out there to inform us. So what does this mean for you? It means you got to take your career into your own hands. You got to take your ability to excel, to educate yourself, not just in book knowledge, but also in career knowledge, in industry knowledge, in relationships. Um, do the hard things that will set you apart from 99.9% of everyone else in your department and in your industry. If you do those things, if you're constantly educating, constantly building relationships, constantly pushing yourself outside of your comfort zone and the status quo that everyone else out there is doing in terms of educating, trying to get ahead, you're going to be the one at the top of this compensation, mountain or bell curve. And it's probably not going to align with what you have seen on the data today, but that's okay. If you're curious to talk to other leaders in the space that have done what you're trying to do, which is to grow, to get these promotions, to grow your financial ability to provide for yourself and your family, there's a lot of those around the Beyond Clean circles, even within our Beyond Clean advisory group. So I'd be happy to connect some of you guys with some of them uh, to talk about their journeys and to get best practice from someone in the space. That's where I would put your trust and emphasis is on the network of other leaders that far above any kind of data like this today until we really nail down a much larger sample size and we get some consistent demographics and data from year to year, and that data is transparent. Uh, Anything like this is published, we should be able to see all the numbers in there, not just the numbers that are kind of sourced to write an article like this. Again, I just want to close by saying this is not a hit piece on healthcare purchasing. I appreciate them trying to do this from year to year. I know it's hard to get people to respond, And once you get the responses, you've got to write it up somehow. But I do wish that there was a little bit more clarity from that side on the gaps in the data, the holes in the data, and especially the inconsistency in the data. That should be spelled out clearly. It shouldn't be something that, we got to sit here and kind of scratch our heads and be like, why? What is that? And then there's no other information about it. So that's my challenge in the space. Can you make a lot of money in sterile processing? Is it a great career to grow in? Absolutely. Uh, but take your advice from people out there who have done what you're trying to do, and take all the rest of this with a grain of salt. All right. Until we see you again, guys, keep fighting dirty.